Hello all, Dr. Fox back here with your weekend update. We got Killer Clowns from BBC. No, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That was always my version, and my other half loved it when I would plug that in. Or we'd say, we'd say Kitty Clowns from Kitty Space, or when I'm playing with Mora. Just being, it's my cute talk. Oh gosh, we had the Max Ian interview. We'll talk about a little bit of that. We had the Wow variety show. How come they didn't let me be part of that? I'm kidding. It's all good, and that's fine. We got a lot of other things. Why don't we just get right into our little weekend update, huh? Dr. Fox back here with you with the weekend up. Glad to have you along. Thank you for coming along. How is this sort of last week-ish or partial last week of August? I'm gonna hold up for you. What do you think? How are you holding up in the last full week of this as well? We have a few things. 9.2.7, as we know, that's dropped as well. But what I was going to start off with is the beta back on this past. I think it was Monday night into Tuesday morning. I woke up Tuesday morning and was kind of surprised with it that it had been announced the night before with all the reboots of we've got like things like Razor coming. That's how I say Hell Razor. I'm just not a fan of having to say that, especially a family channel like this. But that's a story for a different day. That's just how I like to do it. But with all of the different ones, Halloween, like sort of these revamps, we're seeing sort of the Killer Clowns. I even saw some time ago. I know that's actually been out. It's very old news, but we had there was even supposedly coming to Steam. We even got the multiplayer version. Like we had the Evil Dead multiplayer. Played around with that one a bit. But then they even had the Steam version that was coming for the Puppet Master characters. And what I loved about that is you could finally play as one of the killer puppets, if you will, and kind of take on the characters. And with this one, they're gonna have the different ones. You'll have there's like a tank, and then there's like, and one of the big things they really brought back, was kind of exciting, was like the classic laugh from that. I love that one. That's been popping up on Comet TV quite a bit lately, and I just, whenever it's on, I'm like, I turn to my hubby and I'm like, yay, and then I sing the little theme song, and then that or earworm is stuck in my head for a while. And sadly, I'm sorry, Miss Moore is not on our cam today. She's hanging out with my other half. Speaking of, quite a bit. That was just one of the betas announcements. I'll put the link in there. That's Killer Clowns, but this with a K. Killer Killer Clowns, but not with a C. They spell it with Clowns with a K. It's a play on words. KLOWNS. The game. GAME.com. You can check it out. Like I said, I'll put that link in there immediately as it gets uploaded so that no one's fudging around. I know last week we got one of our links in, but I know for some time now I've been unable to get a lot of the editing and the timestamps in there just due to a lot going on around here. It's been kind of crazy nutty as well. And you might notice above us here, while I've been playing some of this, one of their other events this weekend, I think it's called Blight Swords or Blight Sword event. I think there's a couple of new characters. I've been collecting a lot of the familiars, and they're coming with time. Like, I call them the time cake, or like they look like cheese. They look like that white fermented cheese, and they're like, I think you need 4 to unlock. And what I've been doing is I looked on a website that showed the retired characters, and then what I've been doing is when the event drops, I've been doing the couple of retired characters underneath that aren't normally available for the event. And I've done the event and got the 3 characters unlocked for this one. And then I think there were 2 that were retired, and I went into the time gate. That's something I love. I wish World of Warcraft would integrate something like a time gate and let you go back. And I know a lot of purists for having the collector's edition would have this issue, but we saw that come out with a very small special star. What was it? The StarCraft collector's edition, digital edition they came out with. It was like a little, it's just very for a short time, and it was only like a couple bucks. And bam, I got the pets there. I wish they would just do that with that. And I know, like, we got the little nether whelp, but it was like different colored for TBC Classic, and I know Wrath. We'll get into some dates. I've got a lot of dates to go over with you this week as well. TMNT Cowabunga collection, that's dropping this week. Now I'm especially looking forward to it for the Nintendo Switch. It should be on Steam, PlayStation 5, 4, 5 store, and many other places as well. So get ready for. I know I've been very excited. I think I've been dropping hints at that week after week after week, talking about that one a little bit as well. It seems we're gonna have to check it. I'm gonna have to do a check-in or like go back and watch this video from like a year from now, because supposedly, and that could be a little earlier this next year this time or a little bit later on, but supposedly they're going to be integrating T-Mobile with the Starlink system. It's almost like, I think the visual I gave earlier is, let's pretend Earth has like a little ring around it, and there's maybe like 100 cell towers in space. Basically, it's internal languaging. It's gonna pretend like the satellite acts like a cell tower. So let's say cell tower ends with .ct. CT, cell tower for short, instead of, let's say, satellite .st for satellite, right? Not to be too complex, but basically it tries to send the signal up to act like one of those global phone units that you used to be able to buy for like $500, $600, $800, $1,200, and you could take like into the Amazon or something, and it didn't really have cell service. It would just send you a satellite signal. It's going to work something like that. Supposedly T-Mobile is going to have that free through Starlink, and we'll have to kind of see where all the details unfold. But that's been kind of an interesting little drop on that. Speaking of outer space, not just killer clowns from baby space, outer space. We've had the NASA's Artemis 1. I was bumming. I wanted to be part of that as well. That's supposed to be dropping Eastern Standard Time tomorrow morning. They've been moving that back because of a lot of weather issues. And there's a lot of, they used to do these calculations manually. And now it's nice when you got these systems that will automatically figure this stuff out for you. It saves a lot of time. But I'm glad that they still go back and check that to make sure it's proper. But Artemis 1, check with your, because I don't want to activate and do that to you and cause, if you've got my speaker on right now, and have it activate for you if it's near your television or something like that. But you can ask her, or whatever you use, or some of the other activating names that we use for them, and they will tell you about Artemis 1, supposedly the system of is going up on there, and she'll be able to give you some updates and things like that. So I'm kind of really excited about that. I've had my notifications turned on to notify me tomorrow morning, 8:33. Yes, I know, right? It's kind of odd. It's not at the 30. It's not at the 15. It's not at the top. It's not the 10. It's 33 minutes. It all has to do with a certain aspects of weather and all these other circumstances that are involved with it. But yep, 8:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then you kind of do the math from there for Central, for Pacific, and so on and so forth for the other side of the world, CT, and all those time events if you want it. Now, I'm saddened that some of them will be like in the middle of the night or 12-hour difference there. It'll be something maybe you can experience maybe when you get up, or maybe there's some people that are willing to stay up. I know, I wish I could, because I get very excited about outer space stuff like this, so as well. But when we kind of shift gears, and when we were talking earlier about Killer Clowns from Outer Space and those types of games, like we've had a lot of one of my favorite actors was Douglas. Yes, good old Douglas Bradley. He's like in his 70s plus right now. But that's not the point. He's been doing Pinhead for 8, 9 Hellraisers now as well. But I know they're doing a re-release. Like, speaking of that, like, we'll have the third Halloween Ends this year, because there was the re-release of like Halloween a few years ago, and we got the new Jamie Lee Curtis one. We're not talking about the Rob Zombie one that was many years ago. We're not talking about the original Halloweens. These were like re-releases or sort of reboots, and they sort of take place after the second movie, or some will even say the variant of the first. but of sort of a retelling in another direction, but still getting back Jamie Lee Curtis, which has been totally awesome for me. Anyway, I don't know if there's others that have issue, but that's not the point. I've been really enjoying it, and so with that, they're having another Hellraiser one drop, and one of another fellow actors as well as like makeup artist out there as well, Jamie Clayton. She's going to supposedly be playing Pinhead, and they're going to have a re-release of Hellraiser this fall, sometime in October-ish, is the time frame, because she's been everything from Sense8, like the re-release of the L Word. How come I wasn't part of that? I'm just kidding. It's fine. Look, I get it. They got connections and all that. It's fine. I'm just being funny. Let's see. It's sending some love out to you, girl. There was some free WoW this past week for returning players, for anyone that may have just had like the base game for BFA, up to, if someone had maybe purchased it up to say BFA, and it was up in when you log in, it's through the gifting option in the upper right hand corner. They call it the Blizzard app. I don't like to say that, because usually when you think app, you think like Android phone, iOS phone device, but it's actually like an application put on your computer that opens, and that's where you play your Blizzard games with the little icons. And in the upper right hand corner, there's usually like a bell notification up there. And then next to it's like a little package or like a little gift icon you can click on. But sadly, we didn't get that. And we tried playing with one of our alt accounts, and sadly, we didn't get no 50 level boost. And then I think we had played through one of my hubby's alts and got him all the way to level 50, and it maxes out there. It stops. The leveling just doesn't go any further. It just freezes, like it's like the program acts like it's the end of BFA. They haven't put Shadowlands in the base game yet. And we know that's right around the corner. We just gotta just wait it out. But I'm bumming, because they're like, right now they give a free 50 boost, and we're like, hey, we couldn't get that for our character. And we kept checking. They said, well, that should be sent out like within 7 days of the release last week. And I'm like, no, I didn't get it. But it's fine. We had used it, I think, as like a recruit a friend option, so that my hubby can get his biplane that we really want. So I think his camel had finally dropped the other day, or what I think it was. We were all excited for that. Watch out, they spit as well. So here's some of the leak dates that we wanted to go over, a little more specific for you all as well. Let's see here. We have August 30th coming right up. This Tuesday was the Wrath Classic pre-patch that we've been kind of talking about that anyway. I think they kind of announced that one is pretty much set into place as well. September 2nd. Am I going to say that right? September 2nd through the 6th is at 6 p.m. Oh, gosh. Let's see. We had the Overwatch 2 early access October 4th, and we jump ahead about a month from there as well. October 27th, COD Cortez. I almost wanted to say Call of Duty, but it's not. It's the Modern Warfare games that's dropping as well. That's on October 25th. The WoW 10 pre-patch should be hitting. At least that's the tentative date that's been leaking out. Again, these could tentatively change. This was just something that leaked out. And a lot of times we see these leaks, and we like to share those with you if we see a potential date, just to give you a very rough estimate, an idea of kind of if you can hold out a bit longer. And like we said, those that have sent me emails, yes, I would not. They've asked me, is it good? And on our Discord, would you purchase Dragonflight now? I would say no, wait. But if you want to get in on the pre-patch, then you can purchase at least the base. Just a forewarning, this year's expansion has gone up like $20 more than what it cost before, just for the base edition. And I would suggest to wait a little while as well. And I would not want to have to see someone suffer and dish out like $60 for Shadowlands when it's about to get added into the base game, literally in about, I think we had done the math, somewhere around 40-ish or so days. Now it could drop September 6th too, in the base game, especially when we heard these pre-patch dates. But just something to kind of think about over the next few months, maybe to kind of just keep a mental note of before you decide to. Now, in my opinion, if I wasn't doing a lot of the stuff that I cover and do, I think just as a very casual, sort of loose player, if you will, I would probably just wait for them to put it in the base game, purchase the base game, or sometimes you get the base game free and you just have to turn on the monthly fee and like turn on the 6-month option if you think you've got some decent amount of time. Again, you want to make sure that if you're going to put that time in, I know what my brother and I used to do. We would, around the holidays, we'd turn it on for like 3 months. And we'd do like when they had the 3-month program. And we'd come on and we'd do like, we always loved Hollow's End. Then we do the Thanksgiving one. And then we would do the holiday Christmas season for those couple weeks as well. And then we'd pretty much hit around the New Year as well and get the little, they had fireworks. Or usually, I think they had moved that back to the end of January. But then I know there's lunar and things like that. But that we try to come in around that time. And then like another year, we try to do it another time of year. Only because we were usually inside more during the wintertime. So we try to keep our costs down. I know they don't really do that anymore. Sadly, they don't do month-to-month cards anymore. There may be still some old month-to-month cards out there. There's some other places. I would not encourage those kinds of places to go look for those again, but I know a lot of them have pretty much gone to a minimum of 2 months. I know your best deal is to go 6, but I get it. It's hard. You can't always stick around for 6, but just a few suggestions on that. So what I was leading back to is if I was just more of a casual player, I would wait until the end of an expansion because technically what you're paying for is you're paying for beta. We've had this discussion many times of the current game you're playing, even though technically they have a short alpha beta on PTR. Public Test Realm is what PTR stands for those that don't know what PTR is. And that's just another place. I really encourage that at the end of the expansion. It's almost kind of like waiting. I guess it's the same thing with Social Security, right? You got to kind of wait a month later, not 2 years later. But if you could wait that sort of 2 years for that first expansion to go past, then join in so that you're at least enjoying. Now, I get it. A lot of the people you may know have already been playing the newer one, so you're kind of left behind by 2 years behind content. But I like doing that. If I had just, say, my partner or just one good friend that we wanted to play it in, we're like, why don't we wait until, we'll play the past content until then. And then when the new one drops, you have the last expansion come in as core content, and then you can play that through while people are playing the brand new expansion. I get it. You're about 2 years behind, but it's nothing new that, like, let's say you don't see a movie for 2 years, or you don't, and some would go, well, it's apples to oranges, but it's just one example I'm sharing with you over that as well. But that was some of the dates I wanted to at least kind of throw out there as well. We had, I know one of the pre-patches, while I was speaking of pre-patches, well, they're on the potential October 25th date, right about 6 days before Halloween. And Hollow's End should be going on during that point as well. So they'll be doing the traditional catch-up gear for pre-patch. I just wanted to mention that. Some of the areas that they're going to this should be taking place in is Ogon Crater. At least this is what's been announced. Badlands, the Northern Barrens, and the Tristfall Glades as well for those dates. Just to continue on with the dates, we have November 16th, Warzone 2 for the COD or the Modern Warfare ones as well. November 28th, supposedly, is when WoW 10 will officially launch. Because before is the pre-patch. There's usually about a month there. I know Legion was like 42 days, but I mean, there was tons of like massive leveling options when people would finally be, sitting in their poor garrison, bored, alone, and all of a sudden all these legions started coming out. I think they're trying to kind of go back and bring that back. I know a lot of people thought Legion was kind of one of the better expansions in a really long time to enjoy that. With that aspect. And with that, then again, the big game awards that usually happens around December 8th-ish. They may be announcing Diablo 4. I know there's been mixed reviews on Diablo 4, especially with what had happened with the pay-to-play with Diablo Immortal. Or how you're even feeling about the aftermath of that one. Or maybe you haven't even tried it. I personally am able to just avoid the advertisements, and I come in and I get my 2 free dailies. I go out and I attack one bad guy. I log in and get my free once a day goodie, and I get 2 free goodies a day in Diablo Immortal, and I don't have to pay for it. I haven't been doing it as much I was going in and logging in and kind of checking out some of those things, but that's just something. Again, I'm a much more casual player than I used to be. Such a huge player now, and it's really kind of pulled way back, especially now that I have more of a life, if you will. I mean, I already had sort of a life before, but it was agonizing, especially when, I mean, I still have all my struggles, my disabilities, and things that kind of act up. I hate to use those words, but the struggles I have still make it complex for me to even have a daily life right now, especially for much time in the future, and when things are kind of coming up and being kind of chaotic right now. It's just, it'd be nice to get back, and I think we're starting to feel that sort of comfortable place again. We're trying to get back to that. It's a really tough part as well. Just some of the mention of the rep that's going on with the Warcraft, the dragon flight. Supposedly they're going to be making some of the dragon flying better for that. And you can even, speaking of, you can turn into like a little whelp and you can auto follow. I remember one of the dungeons going through Warlords of Draenor where it was hard. You couldn't get around that wind was really hard, so you could kind of do that. Or I'm trying to remember the other one. There's another one where, oh yeah, in the tower in Legion, you'd run up the stairs, like the rocks would keep coming down, and someone had just had trouble kind of being able to do hand-eye coordination, struggling with that. They would stay at the bottom, stay out of the way. They'd say, hang out right here. And then we'd run upstairs, make the boulders stop. Thank goodness they stopped. And they put that in because for a while, I remember the boulders weren't stopping and you had to find your way through there or you were stuck back. And I remember so many times until I figured out the routine of it following, I remember how many times that those like I just couldn't seem to get the timing right. But now I'm like, I just cruise up there and I make them stop, and then my hubby comes running up behind me, and we've done that one a few times. So it's it's just those kinds of examples I just wanted to share as well. But it's kind of neat, like if you can kind of convince someone to be like, oh, I'm gonna / auto follow. We get a lot of that auto follow. Granted, we know some are just like, yeah, it's bull crap. Most of these are individuals that are doing it with bots, Hold for dramatic pause. No, I had to take a sip as well. I know some of the other things that you can do, some of the dailies in Dragonflight and the Alpha that they've been talking about, like it's kind of nice that they're just trying new things. Like they've got this one that's like a rock climbing one with a little character kind of clicks. You can kind of click on really far away rocks and you can make these quite hefty jumps. I mean, these Azerothian characters, like we talked about in one of our other weekend videos, they're very super strong. They're like the Avengers characters. They're very, very, very strong. And speaking of, I was all excited. We've been talking about very small micro moving, like you'll literally be able to create your own Iron Man. Well, we knew this as micro technology begins to get smaller and smaller and get more powerful. But it's so fascinating. Like when I was watching it the other day, this thing was like flipping up like a little frog, and it was just fascinating. They got one that did like a snake, and there's one like a butterfly. And I know they're putting some of these robotics out in nature to see how they respond with and how nature responds to them, to see how realistic. It's fascinating how far they've come. They've really, and I remember on, I think it was Exploration Earth or Exploration Space, one of those old episodes there, I remember they talked about some of the early versions of like these big robotic snake things. And I remember there was such a big one, it was almost like riding an onyx. And could you imagine today, like someone cosplaying and creating something like that and creating like a larger snake that 3D printed more like an onyx, and then you put like sound bites into it, roar, to make it sound like onyx, and then you could like almost ride it with a little saddle. I could totally see that. It'd be like the new crystal onyx kind of almost coming to life. We see a lot of science fiction coming to life decades after it's been used, whether it be in film or in technology or in the military or something, and then it slowly moves its way towards consumers. And it's we've seen that, for those that can really look back. And I'm going to show my age if I talk about how old I am. Many of you already know if you dig deep enough into my lore over here. But I'll leave it at that. Some of us sophisticated gals don't like to reveal too many of our dates. Other ones, we're pretty open, and I was watching a couple of recent interviews with Charles Band and Elvira and a couple of the other actors that he's been interviewing lately on some of his podcasts. So those have been kind of interesting. I'm going to leave it at that. There's other things I'd like to say about it, but I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So I'll leave that in your hands, how you feel. Because remember, these are all personal thoughts about how we feel about certain aspects, and we have to kind of leave that in our own without putting that on other individuals. Like it wouldn't be right to do that. And I'm not saying in a negative or positive way. I'm just talking about how they're kind of interesting concepts about how we discuss and look at factors and how someone does it and this factor and that factor, and there's a lot more going on there. I know I'm a little vague with it when it comes to that. Maybe I've lost you, but I appreciate you kind of coming along. Like Dr. Fox, we just enjoy listening to your babble and the way your cadence goes. But I always just kind of did that with film and radio and newscasts and things like that. So I kind of always had that sort of cadence that just keeps going. And there's the old factor of like no dead air. So we kind of just keep on making stuff up literally to talk about. Sometimes it's the old adage when I used to do comedy, we would study a lot of the freestyle, and it's ad-libbing, we'd call it. It was that was one of the factors involved. We call that ad-libbing, and that would kind of help you ad-libs. But you still want to be kind of aware of what you're talking about, because sometimes you could ad-lib and go way out somewhere, and it can be very major offensive, or if you're just not cautious enough, ad-libbing can turn into a very bad thing within reason. I think with that, let's kind of shift gears as well. I know some of the other, we were talking about WoW, some of their new quests coming that they've been previewing on some of the WoW Alpha, the Dragonflight World of Warcraft Alpha. And we were talking about rock climbing. There's also like the Tuskar as well. You've got like this feast soup. You can like add feast to it. Kind of reminded me of Classic when you had the big cauldron and you had to bring like bones and spirits back to it. It's kind of like that, I feel like. And then depending on what you put in or how much you put in, it kind of gives you a certain buff or what the length of the buff will be. It's kind of an interesting concept. It's just another kind of, but these are within the different reps, and thank goodness it's not quite like Shadowlands. I think you still got to select them, but I think they're now in this setup where you can still see the reps going across, and you can build those. I think you have to select the one that you want to work on as you pop some new reps, and I'm sure as the patches go on, the major patches go on, and as we get close to closing in on what I call the final beta, which is like the tail end of it, where we get to either another expansion or maybe the game will end then, depending on how many players pull back. And of course, we know it's aging. We get it. So a lot move on and people grow and do other things. Or like every expansion, they'll come in for a little bit, play around with it for a couple months, and we're like, all right, I'm good. I'll go back to doing something else or whatever. Just one aspect of that. But it's interesting. Let me know. Is there some new variant quest styles that you're finding to be kind of interesting, or what you're seeing in some of that if you're not able to play the new PTR option for that as well? They have revealed a login screen. Don't you think there should definitely be a dragon? I know I do. And I showed it to my hubby. He's like, definitely. So I also agree. I think if we, with the new title script, we'll see how that unfolds out. It's always just fun to speculate and kind of talk about what would be kind of neat to see there. It kind of reminds me of Kata's release when you'd see Deathwing pretty much on the castle when you would log in, that kind of thing. And it would kind of change slightly varying as the large story would be unfolding. And then we saw it change as we went into the next expansion and so on and so forth. But I think that's a good place where we're switching to Autobots this week, because I think I did Reflector last week, if I did my math correctly, and I was all excited. This week we finally been trying to get it, seems like forever, the Transformers Studio Series 86, and those that know me know I have a big collection of the Studio Series 86, because a lot of them look much more Transformer the movie accurate, in my opinion, than they did as their original toys as well. And they're much more, they're more to, if they call them to scale, but you can't really go 1-to-1 scale. That would be way too big. But they make these bit larger ones as well. And I finally got my Dinobot Sludge. I'm kind of bumming because, well, not really bumming. I know no matter what you do, you're going to have some issue, right? There's a couple of shots of that one on that side. But we kind of got spoiled with Grimlock. Grimlock gave us Wheelie. Slag gave us Daniel. I thought maybe we'd get another little character with Sludge, which would have been so great. Excuse me. I get it. But it was just something I was thinking about. Would be kind of neat if they kind of. It just feels like you get an extra free little toy that they toss in there, because the builds on these lately have kind of worried me, because back in the day, and look, I get it, cost of living's different. But it was like $19.99, $14.99, $24.99, $29.99, and these are like $60 Dinobots now almost, and that's if you can even get lucky enough to get it. And usually it sells out so fast. These horrible scalpers will just, the bots will grab them, they'll max them out to like hundreds of dollars, almost double what it costs you to get you one. It's horrible. So here's the packaging for Sludge, and I thought this is a fun one that I thought I'd pull out of the Transformer Museum this week. And while we were talking about Sludge, you might have heard something fall. I just had him here. Where did he go? I had to keep him nearby. And now aren't I just the one not having him here? Because, there he is. There, he fell in front of my feet. The Transformers, they had released Volcanicus. And this is the Slag they had. Now, I could have just left and be like, oh, this is plenty. This is the Volcanicus set. And they were selling these at like Walmart. And this is Slag. The characters, I haven't taken them out of the box. I was going to show you scale to scale wise, but they're definitely larger. If you just look at, for instance, at Slag, the movie type next to this Sludge, you can kind of tell that there's this difference here. Sorry, my hand's like, if I should turn it this way. But you can definitely kind of tell that these studio series are much larger than these versions. Now, making those large enough that these could transform into Volcanicus would be epic. But again, they didn't happen, and they didn't do that in the Transformer movie. So I get it if they don't give you that option. But geez, for that price, you'd think, right? And again, I get it. Okay, marketing, all these variants and other things like that. But I just thought I'd share with you. This was the Volcanicus version of Sludge. So there's been different variants of the Dinobots. We had some of the original die-cast metal ones as well, but I thought I'd share with you those. Next week, we're going to be featuring Starscream, classic Starscream G1 and Studio Series Coronation Starscream as well. So you want to definitely stick around. Oh, yes, I will. Let's stick around for that one. Let's get into I love my calendar kitten. Sweet little calendar kittens. That's what I was hoping for. I get to see Miss Prissy. I was hoping you get to see Miss Prissy, but I know she's hanging out with my hubby. So, and I think we're gonna kind of jump in there, and we'll go over our little WoW calendar for the week as well, and we'll share you that with. And you might have noticed over there on Idle Champions, I'm plugging away. We did, like I said, I got the 99% of this new event that's up, the Blight Swords or Bright Swords, something like that. That event, I pretty much done it all. I think there's just one of the ultimate attacks I haven't got the character to activate or do something quite yet. Oh, and we did get more pink. I meant to tell you that we got the really large pink. I can't really pick it up now and show you. I should have shown it before I set it out, I guess, but I was really excited to get that mat. I'm going to call it a mat, literally. It's supposed to be like a mouse pad, and it's literally like, you could probably put 2 laptops on it, I think, as well. So that's just something to think about as well. Let's get into this. I love my calendar, Keaton. So, of course, like we said, Wrath, the classic pre-patch, that's going to be dropping over in Classic, not in Retail. Retail this week, we get Traded Fate, Sanctum of Domination, that's beginning. Once again, Fated Raids are continuing. Castle Nathria, that's wrapping up this week, because that's why we shift gears into the Sanctum of Domination. PvP Brawl Classic, Ashran, that's beginning. The Arena Skirmish bonus, that's beginning for you PvPers. battle bonus event that's been going on this week for you that need that as well. And don't forget to get in there, get that scroll. PvP Brawl South Shore versus Torrin Mill ends this week. So get right in there. That wraps this up. A lot of people are heading back to school this week. Let me know how that beginning starts out. I hope it goes smoothly for you. Stay safe. Remember to call me once again next time I'm on, and you know the drill. Once again, we will stay safe, and we will see you later.